wanted to log into YouTube and just listen in and get early access, he could do that right now.
Wait, are we buying that he's really not going to sit in the draft room at all? Like, yo, I'm not going to be in the draft room.
That is so silly. That's so silly. I mean,
Les, how would you, if you had to predict what the weekend's going to look like from Phil's perspective, how would you expect it's going to go?
I think he is going to. I mean, I think he's going to like smoke and hang in the kitchen and then like wait for people to come out and ask him things, and like I think he's gonna try to avoid the ruckus as much as possible. But I don't think we should allow that.
No. Also, he's gonna. If it was anyone else, I would say he would get lonely. But I really can see him like sitting and like reading a sci-fi novel and watching like highlights on NBA TV over and over and over again in the background.
Like he like just sitting in the other room and the other TV while we're all doing the draft.
That's
wouldn't you
not
be
allowed.
interested if you were him?
What's that?
Wouldn't you be interested in what was happening?
I would be very happy being at the UFBL draft and not having a team to draft. It would be
but,
weird.
But you would want to be in the room though.
Totally.
Yeah.
I would want to soak up every minute of it.
But like we're all in the league, so of course we would. Like I just is it a
Phil's
troll
in
job?
the league too,
really
guys.
Is this really what he wants? Is he just like trying to rub our noses in?
What was the thing he said about how he does like that he's coming because we all want like we like insisted that he come? But
he put it on me. I mean, I was pretty insistent that he come. I mean, like it's ridiculous. It would be absurd to me to try and have draft weekend without Phil there. But it's also absurd to me that he doesn't have a team. I mean, but everybody is there's not everybody. Horn loves mayhem, but a lot of people are frustrated with the league. But that doesn't mean that we all just don't participate. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And what's the should we just start this? Should we just do the podcast?
Fine. Yeah. Let's not make this part of the podcast.
Well, are we sure we don't want to make a Phil piece of the podcast?
Yeah, let's do it at the end or something.
All right. Should I start the thing?
Yes.
Hello and welcome to season 3 episode.
I think we're beyond season 3, aren't we?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do you want me to look it up?
No, I don't. I really don't. Make it up.
I think it's season 3. Are we season 4?
I think it's season 4, episode 1. I don't know.
No, this isn't episode 1. This is episode 2.
Season TBD, episode TBD.
How do you guys not know this? It's your podcast. In any case, welcome. It's good to have everyone back for another season of UFBL. I'm your host, David Horn, and the Collier Pod, another season of the Collier Pod, or a continuation of the season that we've already begun. I'm your host, David Horn, owner of the First Place Jabberwocks. With me are co-hosts Brian Lusky, owner of the First Place Dirty Dog Nation, and Gabe Gold, owner of the First Place Chupacabras, but probably not for long. Gabe?
Ouch.
You didn't mention it's the first ever pod where 2 of the hosts are co-located. We are live from Austin, Texas, huddled over one microphone and sharing a set of earbuds.
And eating delicious snacks.
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds loaded, but it's not.
We are Gabe couldn't stay away from Texas. The siren's call was just too much to resist.
And on my flight to Texas a week before the draft last year, I paid $6 to keep Ricky Rubio for like $66 last year. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to recreate that amazing feat this year.
Now's the time to be slinging offers to Gabe.
Damn right.
So Lusk, is everything in order for next week? Are people staying at that house next week?
Yeah, we've got multiple Austin cars this year.
For the first time ever. That's a big milestone too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the same. I think we have three people, or maybe 4 this year. 4 staying in Austin. I know Amish is coming, Height's coming, Mitch is coming, and Pesk is coming. We were going to try and make it work with one car, but now due to logistics and getting cars back to Houston, we added a second Austin car.
Is it true that we're going to have like 10 cars for 13 people or something?
I don't even know. I haven't been monitoring that. But things are in order. You know who's actually a huge boon to auction planning? Mitch. Yeah,
That's not
huge.
surprising.
It's actually
What's he been contributing?
he's like really gung ho about he's going to do a lot of cooking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so we have kind of like a back channel discussion going on about it's basically the Schloads of Meat channel on Slack.
Wait! There's a Slack channel that I'm not a part of.
There are several actually. Dads, Schloads of Meat.
What happens on Schloads of Meat?
It's not actually called that, but no, there's a shopping list that Pesk and I kind of maintain, and every year we refine it, usually with the help of Phil, and Phil is helping this year. I don't want to discredit him, but you know we got that going. We're thinking about adding some new tools to the mix, and Mitch is adding some new recipes. So I think it'll be a really good draft.
Are we going to have any of the like zoning people drive one of the cars back to the airport for us?
I don't think so.
And the ranch. So why is it there's a surveyor coming?
Yeah, I think it's just some random thing. I don't know. Jay emailed me about it ages ago, and it's funny because I had some vague recollection of it, and so I've been like scouring my email to be like, when is this person coming? Is it someone we need to be worried about, right? And I couldn't find anything from Jay, so I emailed him today, and I go, hey, a couple things. We're excited to come. Next weekend. Is there a visitor coming to the ranch? I vaguely recollect you mentioning something about it, right? And it turns out that I wasn't imagining it. The part that I had wrong was that it wasn't sent from Jay. It was sent from Jay's assistant at work, and so I was looking for the wrong sender. And so anyway, the details that I shared today are exactly it. There's some county surveyor that's going to measure the size of the house or something. I don't know.
For what
Sounds like
what purpose? Yeah, that's a very strange thing to have happen on like a Saturday.
Yeah, it's weird.
Did you know that the ranch was in Montgomery County and not Grimes County?
I did not. Because Mimi, Kim's grandmother is like, a Grimes County loyalist. She's always like talking about Grimes County courthouse.
Well, I'm wondering whether it's possible that the boundaries have changed.
Anything's possible.
We should look into it.
Yeah.
It is extremely crickety where you are, Dave. I agree with Lusky's assessment.
I'm sitting on my porch, and the crickets are humming. Is it distracting? I can go inside.
No, I kind of like it.
It's atmospheric.
Yeah. It's just adding to the romance between Gabe and I.
I'm surprised that you guys aren't in the little courtyard. It's
a little muggy in Austin right now.
Is it? Oh, really? Is it going to be nasty next week at the ranch?
I was checking it out. I mean, I don't know, right? It's like 40% chance of rain right now, which in Texas, means nothing.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the auction, and our plan for tonight is to go through all of the teams. Well, first, Lusky, per your request, I thought we were gonna begin by me, maybe with your help, unveiling the tiers for this year as we've identified them.
Yeah.
And then we're going to track through sort of from top to bottom. Is that the idea?
Yeah, sounds good.
So these tiers, this tier system I came up with sort of at the beginning of my prep, just trying to figure out where everyone stood. And I guess I shared it with a couple people. I think when you asked me to do it again today, it was a little different than it was like a month ago or whatever. But you seem to think it was a good system. Why don't you walk us through it?
Okay. So so there's basically 4 tiers, I think, or 5.
5. I think there's 5 tiers.
Wow, we've added a new tier to the mix, and we'll get to the addition. But the top tier is, as you would expect, the ones that have a lot of keepers. So we're calling it keeper rich, cash poor. And we'll let's save the teams in the category for later on when we review them.
You're good at this. I hadn't thought to tease it, but now people will have to listen longer to our
Yeah. So tier 1 is keeper rich, cash poor, and we have 4 teams that are in that category. Horn seems to suggest that the 4th of those might be sliding a little bit. I tend to disagree. We'll get to that later. Tier 2 is cash rich, keeper poor. And there's 2 teams there. Tier 3 is the Weird 7, which you may remember from last year. We had a Weird 7. Even though this year there's not 7 teams in the Weird 7, we're just kind of keeping the name for tradition's sake. This year there are 3 teams in the Weird 7.
With a few others who may want to muscle in.
Yeah. And then Tier 4, this is the one I really like. I think this is just like its own special category. I'm trying to. I don't want to call it what you called it because that'll be a dead giveaway.
No, I think you just called it what I call it.
Okay, Tier 4 is the Peskin tier. Because Peskin initially was in his own special, unique tier. But it seems that another team may have earned its rightful place. So there's 2 teams in Tier Peskin, shockingly. And then the 5th. The 5th team,
branding wise,
with the 5th tier with 3 teams in it is the Rebuild/Muck tier.
There's a question mark at the end of the title for the tier.
Oh, sorry, Rebuild/Muck. That tier is not for the faint of heart. There are 3.
Gabe, have I previewed these tiers with you?
And just insofar as I was monitoring the Slack channel today.
Oh, okay. But I hadn't previously shared this concept.
No.
All right. So you looked at Slack, so you already saw how they were distributed.
I for purposes of this exercise, let's assume I haven't.
Well, I was going to say it would be fun. Well, you may not think this is fun because I think we have different visions of what kind of games are fun. But I think Lusky and I would enjoy watching you try to assign the teams to those tiers.
Okay, I can do that.
So what should we, or Lusky, is that inconsistent with your expectations for how we were going to track through this?
No, I'm in total agreement.
Okay, so the keeper rich cash poor is my first one, right?
Yeah, and there's 4 teams, but the 4th has an asterisk.
Okay, so I'm going to go Jones, Horn, Weeg, Amish.
Yes. And who has the asterisk?
Who has the asterisk? I don't think any of those have an asterisk.
I don't either.
All right. Well, so my thinking was, so that's right, Gabe. My thinking was that Amish is in that tier where multiple keepers, multiple really good keepers. I think the question is, does the injury to Markkanen change the analysis?
Let's discuss Markkanen when we get to Rumspringa.
All right. So that's okay. So that's fine. Next tier, Gabe, is the cash-rich keeper poor.
How many teams?
2.
Lusky and Bookbinder.
Very good.
God, he's 443 and you have 450.
It's going to be great. I really wish Bookbinder was going to be there because the 2 of you scoring off with loads of cash is just going to be super fun.
There's no better managers. If you were gonna anoint any 2 managers to come in as chip leaders, these are the 2 you would pick.
Yeah, and especially one coming in on speakerphone.
Yeah. This is such an unexpected and wonderful development for the league that we have you guys being the tall chip stacks for the
I'm fascinated. I feel like Glassby is just going to have a Glassby draft. I feel like you could put Glassby on Mars or in Antarctica and he would have a Glassby draft. I'm really interested to see what a remote Bookbinder draft looks like. I think it could be like a sneaky advantage for him somehow. Like you might be able to focus better.
Let's revisit that when we get to Bookbinder. Next tier is the Weird 7. And how many teams this year, Lusk?
I think we said 3 or 4. Let's see. The Weird 7. 1, 2, 3. 3 weird teams.
Well, so one of these I kind of think should be maybe in the keeper rich cash poor group, which is Height. I'm guessing he's in here, right?
He is in there, and I can explain why he's not in the keeper rich cash poor group.
Now let's save the analysis for when we do the analysis.
So Height, I'm going to go Glassby and T-Mac.
Correct.
Is that it, or is there another one?
Oh yeah.
No, that's correct. That's it.
That's right. Yeah.
2 in the Peskin tier.
Right now,
one of these is hard.
There's two teams. There's 2 teams in the Peskin tier.
Mitch the other one in the Peskin tier? What makes him analogous to Peskin?
So the Peskin tier is like you have a lot of your dough locked up in keepers.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But the keepers that you haven't locked up in are not they're fine. Like all those guys,
Why are they not in tier 1?
because
they have
there's
like
not this
very
kind of
little else to
savings.
play around with, and their keepers are like marginal values. They're not like explosive
Got
good
it.
values.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no Collins, there's no Towns, there's no Simmons, there's no Embiid. Like those guys, those elite keepers are not on those teams. They have good keepers, they have fine value, but like they're not getting huge savings from their keepers, and they've got a lot of like their money.
I love hearing Collins in that context after the amount of shade that Lusky threw at me all last season about Collins' keeping price.
Lusky still, I don't think Lusky has changed his tune on the Collins keeper price.
Hey, Monster loves them. I'm commonly wrong, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So hey, Monster thinks I'm wrong. Gabe thinks I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. But you know what? A year from now, if I'm right, you're gonna hear about it.
I can't believe I ruined that. I like stumbled into that Terry Rozier conversation yesterday and was like, guys, he's talking about Terry Rozier.
It's a rookie mistake from a veteran.
What a waste. Okay, what's next?
This is the last year. It's the rebuilding muck? Question mark.
Oh, so I disagree with at least one of the teams in here. So I'm obviously in this category, but I'm not sure either of the other guys left Beer or Emmer deserve to be in this category. So Emmer has a full stack, a slot, and fucking Lusky's new boy.
Doncic.
Yeah. And Beer has 3 slots and almost a full stack and got some decent there too.
I agree with all of that. I think the theme of the category was the teams that are sort of came into the summer licking their wounds from the arms race. And
my wounds are well licked, thank you very much, David.
Scabbing over. But yeah, I said that they both. I mean, I think Emmer and B are a much better position than you are to like muscle into the weird 7 or better. But at the moment, it's unclear, and all of Emmer and Beer both have a history, and you have a history of seesawing, and so this is like the opportunity to seesaw if all of you wanted to.
Okay.
So let's go back to the top. So we all were assigned some of the teams. The first, I think, was Jones. So I don't have the thing in front of me.
I got it. I got the Scorpions.
So the assignment was to we're each going to go through and talk about sort of the state of the franchise, where this manager and the team are at relative to their sort of recent history, what the expectations are for this year. And then sort of an assessment of what they have coming in, keepers, slots, strategy, and then at the end, before we move on to the next team, we're all going to give our best guess for what place in the standings this team's going to finish.
Sounds good.
So take it, Lusk.
So Scorps are actually they're even an anomaly within their own tier, because the title of the category, Keeper Rich, Cash Poor. First of all, they are keeper rich. They have 2 top 15 players on very cheap contracts, but they're not exactly cash poor because they're on cheap contracts. They got $350 to splash around, right? So, one of the things I was thinking about with these guys is, Jones, if he really want, I don't know that this is the strategy that he should take, but if he really wanted to, he's positioned to be maybe the first manager ever that could have like 4 top 15 players on his team at the end of a draft. I don't know that anybody's ever had like 2 top 15 guys on such cheap deals and had enough money to go and really like just get more elite talent. So I think he's kind of special in that way. The other thing that sets him apart, however, and this is why I think it's probably not in his best interest to go and spend on another, or certainly not 2 more top talents, is he is the only one of that top tier that has no multi-year keepers. So, I think that he's going to be, he's going to need to find those chips that he can put in play kind of middle of the year. I forget who's his LSL guy. That was one thing that I neglected to really do in my analysis here. Jones has Bull, so he's not really in the LSL conversation. He doesn't have no one in the league yet, and I don't know what kind of like return he'll get for him mid-year. So I think that he's coming in with like 2 premium pieces, but he's got a lot of work to do. And so I think one of the things he has to be mindful of is that he's going to be, I would think, in the bidding with some of the muckers, trying to find his John Collins, right? I think that was kind of the position you were in last year, Gabe, is like you knew you were competitive. You had a ton of cash and some keepers, but you used your topper on John Collins because you're like, I'm going to need a guy that can be one of my kind of assets that I can flip.
Yeah. I have a ad lib question for you guys. You there, Dave?
Good question.
Sorry. If they were on a little bit of a 2019-20 preview, because maybe that's where Cobb's management is at these days. If Jokic and Embiid were on the open market, who would go for more, and how much does the more expensive of the two of them go for?
That's a great question. I don't know about next year. I mean, this year.
Sorry, I mean if they were on the market this year.
Yeah, I think. I mean, all of the I haven't looked at those guys a lot, but I think all of the rankings have Jokic a little ahead of Embiid, and that I think colors people's perceptions.
Block scarcity, though.
Yeah, and I think Embiid. I think there's also a sense that Embiid there's still room to grow, whereas Jokic, I think that's probably still true with Jokic, but I don't think people are as like eagerly anticipating him like taking another leap, whereas Embiid has another leap in him, or at least people think he does. So I think that might, in UAFBL, push his price up a little bit, or put him maybe right where Jokic's price was, because people are going to think, oh, like I could get this guy for 125, and he may turn out to be a keeper, because he's, the following year he'd be like 160 or something. He's that good.
No, the last thing, and this is just something that I forgot to mention, the last thing about Jones's team that we didn't talk about is he actually has a third slot. It's unaccounted for. I mean, I think there's some speculation that DeRozan's the third guy. I don't know that Jones knows his team more than I do, so I don't know how much that makes sense for him. I kind of think the DeRozan price, when you compare it to the other two guys, is kind of meh. But it's just worth noting he's got a third slot. I mean, there's a couple of squinters on that roster that he could have in mind. At one point this summer, Jones was actually reaching out to me to buy a slot. And so I don't know if he's got like other stuff in the works, or if there's other people that he did like and doesn't like now. The main squinter on his team that you can make a case for, I think, is Sabonis.
And so what place do you predict for Scorpion Bulls?
I think he'll finish. I'm going to say. I'm going to give him a third place finish. And I think, I love his two guys, but I just think it's really hard to, when I compare him to the other guys in that category, it's really hard to find those pieces to flip. And we know the nature of our league is ultimately to win those big arms race deals. You need those pieces.
Gabe, what do you have a sense of where he's likely to finish?
I have a hard time predicting finishes beyond like the tiers that they're already in, because like we've already organized them roughly in order of our what we think is their likelihood of success, I think. But yeah, I mean he's got a top 3 chance of winning this year, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think last guy was a helpful assessment, and I'm persuaded that he should have like the best looking team walking away from the auction weekend. But I think you're also just dead on that finding those pieces to flip is going to be tricky. So I think it's hard not to say that he's going to be outside of like the top 2 or 3. I think second place is not a crazy thing to say for him.
Oh no.
I'm gonna stick a flag in Scorpion Ball second place.
Also, God forbid he could actually trade one of those guys for other good current value players.
Well,
that's unheard of.
It would be basically unprecedented.
No, I was actually. It's funny you say that, because I was going to say, like I was just thinking, like, what would be like a really interesting tactic for him is like go offer his brother-in-law like $200 for Doncic or something crazy. Like just get in the game. Like after he hears this podcast, be like, oh shoot, you know what? Maybe I should be taking the same tactic that like those muckers are.
You're saying that Jones would plant a muck this year.
No. Did he not? No, but
Pursue muck style guy.
Because because he already has. I mean, he's already got this top talent under his paw, right? Like he doesn't need to really worry about that. Just
add Doncic to the stable, basically.
Yeah, get him on the squad so that he has a known commodity that he's going to be able to flip, mid-season.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next team up is we. Yeah, so Split Fiddles. Who has Split Fiddles?
Me. So Split Fiddles have 4 slots. 1 to the aforementioned John Collins. 1 to Otto Porter. 1 to Karl Anthony Towns. And 1 to LaMarcus Aldridge. So I would analogize Week this year to the already front-running version of Beer's team last year. I think he has the makeup and temperament of a extremely well-balanced team that will not be getting a 14 in TOs, but might be, scoring pretty strong there and is really well-balanced. I think that he's got a draft full of walking a tightrope to balance all this stuff to go with his excellent foundation ahead of him. And I also like that he has John Collins to flip potentially.
Not just John Collins.
And Jaren Jackson.
I think Jaren Jackson.
Oh, and Jaren Jackson.
I mean, the thing is, the interesting thing about him is that of the LSL guys, so Doncic is going to be very hard to attain because he's on one of those teams that's likely rebuilding. Like Weeks guy is perhaps the most attainable because he's going to try and compete, but he'll command, he could sell him pre-auction in one of those DSJ style deals.
It's also the most, I think Triple J is the easiest of the LSL guys to see translating into UAFBL value very quickly.
Totally.
I can imagine it much, I'm very high on Doncic, but I think with the 3 blocks combo is just going to be awesome.
And the Grizz or tire fire. Yeah. I mean, the issue with him though, cash stack after his keeps, 129.
I'm just going to say this. If I were him, I'd be thinking about flipping Cat for a package before the season. Do it to one of the to one of the cash-rich teams.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Jaren Jackson, in terms of immediate fantasy impact, is better than DeAndre Ayton?
Ayton's starting, and they're going to be leaning on him, so maybe not. But I think by the end of the year, Jackson's better.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're only talking about $15 or something. I like the lower auction price. I can easily. It's very hard to envision a world where Jaren Jackson is not worth 26-36 in years 2 and 3. But it's easier to envision a world where Ayton is not worth 41-51 in years 2 and 3. Not to mention I don't know. I saw Ayton play in summer league, and the game I saw, he had 8 turnovers. It was not pretty, and so I don't know. I'm a little bit of a hater. Bookbinder is gonna throw that back in my face, I'm sure.
But. Predicting place to finish, Gabe. What do you think for Split Fiddles?
I'm gonna say agonizing second.
Same. Same.
I'm going to say first place because I think that the combination. Of these teams in this tier, we're going to go through. We're going to talk about all of the flaws of each one, and Lusky did a good job with Chris. Week doesn't really have them, and that low chip stack. First of all, it's the same as my chip stack after my keeper commitment, so that's not a disadvantage against the walks. And he's got this combo of he's got an elite guy. He's got, and then he's got these other 2 pieces that are much more, in a lot of ways, much more easily flipped during the race than my guys, for example, or Misha's. I think even. So I don't know. I think when you sort of look at all the factors, he's got them all going in the best possible way. So I'm gonna take him first.
So the next one up is you, Horn, and that's mine again. And to the point you just made. You have 2 better keepers than anyone.
Period.
Anyone in the league? Is there a better?
Yeah, because the long-term nature of Simmons and Mitchell makes. That's the thing. Is far and away.
But it's going to involve trading out like a load-bearing wall of your team mid-season. So you're going to have to, like, you'll be able to, but you're going to have to get a lot back for them, which you
they'll give out like someone's entire eighth place team.
Yeah. And
that's the way our league
works.
Two
people's entire eighth place teams if you want.
Exactly.
Two of them because I don't see anywhere the way that both of those guys go in the same deal. So that's, you can get a lot for those two. And so I should go back again to John Collins. He is the second most vindicated Atlanta Hawk keeper that we've got here. I cannot believe where I'm seeing Taurean Prince in some fucking mock drafts. It is unbelievable for where Taurean has come and how much faith people are placing in him.
Only because people like Lusky leading the charge, like decides that the league is just gonna like make Taurean Prince the butt of a joke. But he has shown.
No, that wasn't Lusky's doing. That was Taurean Prince's doing during the whole first half of last year.
No, yeah, but like
he was actually terrible for Happy.
When you sign guys to 3-year contracts in UFBL, the first 2 months of their production over that life of that contract is totally beside the point. Like,
yeah, but like
Taurean Prince was a 2nd-year player. Like it was always going to be, a process to get him to the point where he was going to be a great keeper piece for a contending UFBL team, and now here we are.
You're in terms of Taurean Prince's value at $31 next year.
The good news is he's cheap.
And next year doesn't, and I don't care about next year, Les.
And he has opportunity
next year.
Yeah, I mean, Taurean's actually the interesting one to me because, Horn's gonna have a problem with Taurean, right? Like, no one is gonna want to talk to him about Taurean Prince when Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons are sitting there.
He's not gonna try to make them talk about Taurean Prince. Taurean Prince is gonna be starting for the Hawks in April.
Yeah, Taurean Prince is a top 60 guy. He's gonna be part of the team. And if people don't want him, that's fine. I don't really give a fuck.
Also starting for the Hawks in April will be Anthony Davis, your 4th keeper.
Or on the IL.
Yeah, starting my base round.
From your lips to God's ears, Gabe. All right, place and finish for the Hawks, Gabe.
You did a pretty good job of selling me on weak, so I might be giving you that 2nd place instead. Top 2.
Lusk.
First in a landslide. You would have to, I mean, my opinion is that you would have to really royally screw something up. Like literally after the day after the draft, you could go and trade Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell for like 8x each of their values. It's crazy to me to think that we're sitting here hemming and hawing about this. Like you should win this. The only thing that might prevent you from winning the league are injury. The only things that could prevent you I don't even know the injury could stop it. I think the only thing that could stop you from winning the league is your stubbornness. Like you said to me, like you might go for like back-to-backs. Like do it. Go for back-to-backs. Refuse to trade these motherfuckers. I guarantee you're gonna trade these guys. You're gonna win the league. We're gonna all just say, "Oh, remember when the AFL was like."
He's saving Taurean for the back-to-back. That's what he's.
Right. Okay.
So I don't think you actually believe any of that. I think you enjoy the gamesmanship of playing with people's expectations. But if you do really believe that, you're going to be very disappointed with the execution of my auction next week because my team is not going to look very good leaving the ranch. Next up is Rumspringa. Who's got Rumspringa?
I do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Rumspringa. So first of all, let's talk about Laurie because you brought it up earlier. For the exact reason that you said about Taurean Prince not caring about the first 2 months of his production for you. I mean, same thing's true about this Laurie injury. Like, I don't think this injury changes much. First of all, the low end.
Let me just interrupt for a minute. I think there is a difference between the first 2 months. So you signed a 3-year contract to a young player in UFBL. The first 2 months matter less when you're not competing, but when you're trying to compete and counting on him, it's a slightly different story.
I see. Okay, I didn't realize that stipulation. Nonetheless, I think you can withstand. I think when the news first came out, they said 6 to 8 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks, something along those lines. I did the math, and I think that like on the low end, Laurie might only miss like 12 games or so. On the high end, he could miss like 20 games. So I mean, not great, but I think he can withstand that. And I actually think Laurie is going to have a really good year this year. Like, I don't know if you guys saw like the pictures of him from the offseason, but the dude put on like a ton of muscle. He looks different than last year. And I frankly think Bobby Portis is terrible. I think the Bulls are terrible, and they need Laurie to like start to grow into to try and become the next Dirk. And I think that's kind of his game is kind of well suited for that. So I'm bullish on Laurie.
It's weird watching them try to play Carter, Lowry, and Jabari together, but that's not really the Misha's problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll figure it out. Laurie's a different. I mean, it's like it's like when the Mavs were getting Dirk groomed. It's like nothing made any sense. When you have a player like that that's like a giant stretch four, like nothing makes any sense. You're like, this guy should be a 2. Why is he not a 2, right? Yeah, I do. We should like get him on that. So that's my sense on Laurie. I think I like Tatum a lot. I loved him in the playoffs last year. I'm a little bit concerned because the Boston is trying to assimilate both Kyrie and Hayward back in. But I think Tatum's a really good player, and I think they'll figure out a way to allow him to grow. And I think that Dennis Smith Jr. still has a ton of upside. So the reality is, like, all 3 of these players are pieces that if things kind of break the right way, they're all pieces that Amish should be able to flip and be able to return. None of them are the Donovan Mitchells or Ben Simmons or or Jaren Jacksons of the world. If Jaren Jackson is as good as I think he's going to be,
but like, he's pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
DSJ has the upside to be pretty good.
Right, and so he's got all that. He also has, for what it's worth, Mo Bamba and Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. I don't know. I kind of think that like they're probably going to sit him this year. He's probably going to have even less value than he had last year when he was dealt because there was more uncertainty. Now there's certainty, but it's not great certainty. And then Mo Bamba, I don't know. Orlando is a big mystery to me. They've got a lot of bigs down there, and
oh my God, they're starting point guards.
Yeah,
can you believe who they're? We've never been in a more point guard rich time in the NBA, and they're starting DJ Augustine and Jerian Grant.
Yeah, we got to find so Vucevic has to get dealt this year. Like, he's on a cheap deal, remainder of his deal. It makes so much sense to get him on a contender.
Him, yeah.
Is there like a quasi good young point guard that a contending team would? Oh, Rozier, like Vuce for Rozier or something like something along those lines would be interesting. I mean, that's the kind of deal they need to be targeting, right? I mean, I don't think Boston does that. Maybe they do because Rozier's up as well. But
good one.
So where do you see Rumspringa finishing, Lusk?
I'll give him 6th. I'm just going to throw a number out there. I'm kind of throwing a dart, but I'm going to give him 6th.
All right, 6th. Gabe, what do you think?
I don't think any of us can predict this because it's about what's going on in Amisha's head. Like, if this is a team to me that you can decide to compete or decide not to compete with.
Right.
Personally, I think he should compete. Like, I think the future value of those guys and the fact that I think very highly of your team, but I think this is the most open year we've had in several years, and I think that all these so-called not quite whatevers should be competing.
I agree with everything you just said. It is definitely the most open year we've had in a long time. And yeah, I mean, and for me, like, sitting on the sidelines for 2 years, like, there will be time enough for that when we have relegation. But for now, when you've mucked a season and he succeeded, it was a successful mucked season. He got 2 awesome young 3-year keepers. Just like, go for it. So I totally agree. Next up is that's the entirety of the. Next up is the
cash rich
keeper poor. So cash rich keeper poor is Books and Lusky. So who has Scotty beat for 3? Oh, I do. I have both of these.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. All right. Well. Well, let me start with you, Lusk. So first of all, I think that you're still in like your honeymoon period, just a couple years removed from your championship. For me, like that, I found that to be a very like stress free time, and it's a good time to like fuck around, to pursue different strategies. So I always find that liberating. Hopefully you do too. And I think I also think that like for all of us, like mentally when we're doing the auction, I don't know, after winning, it takes some pressure off. So I presume that you're still feeling that. But I'm really excited, as I said before, about the chip stacks. I think that I said this to Gabe, that you and he both seem to have a particular fondness for chip stacks. You talk about chip stacks the most. You're like the most aware of other people's chip stacks. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that, either to agree or disagree.
Wait, I do? You said me and Lusky do?
No, that Lusky and Bookbinder.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize Bookbinder did that. I mean, no, I just think that when you're like, thinking about what strategy you're going to take in the draft, a lot of that is dictated by how much money you have to splash around. Like I've had years where I've done it well. I've had years where I've done it poorly. And sometimes even when you plot it out, things don't break the right way. But I for as much as I coined the phrase "cash is meaningless," which is why it's kind of funny that I evaluate people's chip stacks. But look, we do an auction where we pay dollars for players, and having more money affords you the ability to get more players. So,
especially when you're trying to compete, and you're gonna be bidding on guys sort of up and down the value chains, and just having that extra cash. There was a year when I had a whole bunch of cash, and this is what I did. It's just like you don't care about the difference between 71 and 72. You don't care about the difference between 88 and 92. Like those numbers, that's where it becomes meaningless, because you have enough of it that it just doesn't matter. And there's only so many ways to spend it and all that. So that's what's fun. And that's
I think
it's like in poker where you have a tall stack and you can just sort of lean on people.
Yeah, one thing, now that I'm thinking about it, one thing I guess I've come to realize is that like if we had to compare having a big chip stack to avoiding injury, like avoiding injury is way more important.
Agreed.
Than if you go out there and draft like Conley and Anthony Davis and
you can guarantee that they'll be healthy.
I'm saying but if you go out there and draft these guys like like this year, like Conley, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, like all these guys that like in recent history have missed time, and you're like it doesn't matter how big your cash stack is. Like you're just you're rolling the dice, and you're going to miss games, and you're likely going to miss games, and you're reducing your chances, right? So the cash stack doesn't really matter in that circumstance.
Right.
So who are Lusky's three keepers, Dave?
That's a good question.
I want to point out, I think you have the two worst rostered players in all of UAFBL on your roster.
Oh, really? Thanks.
Can I guess who you think they are? Yeah. Cristiano Felicio.
Yes.
And Deonta Davis.
Yes.
You guys don't
know. Justin Patton on my team is a close.
No, guys, who's Damian Dotson? I don't even know who that is. Come on.
Can we go through each team? All right, we're gonna do a little sidebar rapid fire round. I'm gonna call on you. Would you guys both have the teams up in front of you?
Yeah.
All right, everyone's gonna go around and identify. Not everyone. I'm gonna assign you a team. You have to quickly say who you think the worst player on the team is. Lusky, Rumspringa.
Rumspringa's worst player. It's kind of nice out there.
I see who it is.
Is it Boban?
No, dude, it's Shelvin Mack.
Shelvin Mack's amazing.
So depressing. The Jerry and Grant Shelvin Mack combo is just not uplifting.
All right, Gabe. Sorry for parting.
I'll go Chake Diallo.
I agree. I think that's right. Is Quinn Cook supposed to be like fantasy caliber good yet?
Well, when he started I owned him last year because he was the Warriors starting point guard when Curry was out, and like he was a good 3-point specialist when he got minutes.
All right, I'm assigning myself. It's got to be for 3, and the answer is there's a lot of good choices there. It's got to be Ivan Rapp.
Yeah.
It's got to be Ivan Rapp. Yeah. All right, Lusky, Lane.
Ever kind of preserved a decent roster. The only options are Maxi Kleber or Anthony Tolliver. Both of which will probably see some dirt burn for the Dogs this year.
Gabe, you get Super Cop.
Patton.
People are really into Wesley Wundu.
Why do you think the Cubs own him?
Somebody was just talking about how great it is. Okay, I'm assigning myself. Who's next?
Class B.
Kansas City Redhawks. Oh man, there's. Oh, well, I can't say it. Gabe, say it for me.
Is this a name that you can't pronounce, or
No, I
I thought I have to admit that Terrence Jones is the worst.
Yeah, I can't concede the point.
I actually don't think there's a bad player on
So
Heights' team.
Height's hard because Height's entire team is squinters,
Yeah.
but Chris Bosh or Thon McCurr are the only contenders.
Gabe, you get the Jabberwocks.
It's Dragon Bender.
No, dude, it's Justin Jackson.
Oh, Justin Jackson is awful.
Justin
You're right.
Jackson worse than Dragon Bender?
No, Justin Jackson is terrible.
Yeah. All right, Lusky. Or wait,
He already said Lusky's. It's Damian Dotson.
No. It's I'm up next for Jones, and the answer is
Damian Dotson.
Dude,
it's Dotson. Why are you
gonna die on Damian Dotson corner?
I don't know, man. I just don't know about Isaiah Taylor, but Damian Dotson it is.
We already did me.
Who's the worst player on Mitch's team, though?
Deonta Davis. And,
LeBron James. Lusky, you've got Peskin.
I have Peskin. Marquise Chris. Tyler Dorsey.
Gabe, you've got Phil's team.
Phil's team. I don't have it in front of me. It's not here.
Oh, I have it on my. I keep it. All right. You've got T-Mac then.
Let's go Timmy Frazier.
I think that's right, and I'll finish it out with Weeg. Scat.
It's pretty good, actually.
Probably Wayne Ellington.
Corey Brewer.
Greg Monroe.
Yeah.
Or Corey Brewer. Corey Brewer is worse than Greg Monroe. All right, that was great. Where were we on the thing? Talking about Bookbender's team or your team? So your team.
Who are his keepers?
Yeah, and right. So I was going to talk about Porzingis. So the Porzingis thing sucks, and I'm sorry that happened. And whatever, man. You're going to just roll with it. Like you're already over it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
over it insofar as I'll never trade with Emmer again.
Would you say that last year Lusk was like, was it a year when, like, in your characterization, in your view, was last year a year in which the sellers fought back?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that I don't know. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't achieve anything. It didn't change the dynamic of the league, right? But I despite what happened with
you're
Porzingis,
sort of you're like a tragic hero. You're like it's like something out of like an epic poem.
Yeah, in spite of what happened with Porzingis, I thought that I held strong on my negotiations. I mean, Phil will have you know that, in retrospect, I should have done that deal for Dunn instead of Porzingis, because in some world that makes sense. In a world where that Porzingis is going to go down for the year. But Phil's not in this league, so.
And even if he does listen to this podcast, he won't admit that he did.
Yeah.
So you're gonna keep. You've got a Booker who's gonna come back soon enough. That's not a big deal. You've got Super Dario. Yeah, that's a 3-year keeper. And then you've got this other slot. I think there's a lot of things you can do with it. I think you're in a fun position of having cash, a lot of roster spots to fill, a slot to kind of play around with, at least one slot to kind of play around with.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Terry Rozier is on this team.
Yeah. I have a whole subsection on Terry Rozier. I think you're gonna have a fun auction weekend because you can sort of insert yourself in everything with your cash in your slot. If I have to predict a finish, I think your stack is a little scary, and I think one of the challenges for you with all of the with only having a couple of keepers and then all this cash to spend is like you've just got to hit all your marks. Like it's a lot of work you have to do on auction day, and a little bit more work than some of the other competitors, and I think that just creates a little bit of a degree of difficulty. But I'm going to predict your usual fifth place finish right where you live.
I agree. I was going to put myself fifth as well.
Gabe, what do you think?
Sure, let's make it 3.
And then I think I have Bookbinder 2. Bookbinder. Bookbinder's a mystery to me. I didn't prepare anything for this. I think he's got a lot of. I mean, in some ways, his team is like a shittier version of Height's team, where he's got a couple of. I mean, Chris Dunn is a really nice keeper, and then he's got a whole bunch of guys that are not as good as Height's guys. But if you squint at them, you can make out a case for Tyreek Evans. You can make out a case for Jordan Bell. You can make out a case for Harry Giles. You can make out a case for
Do not Google.
What's that?
Or do not Google.
For Fournier, yeah. Like all these guys are. I mean, none of them really should be kept. Maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions. But if he
Books apparently agrees with you because he's selling slots.
Right. I think he's right. I think he's allowing the slot market to dictate his decision on keepers, which frankly is not like.
Who do you guys think? Like, if you were a betting man, like who's the third keeper for him today? Who's the second keeper for him today?
Who's the second? Who do you think it is?
I think Tyreek's the number 2. I think Tyreek's
feels like the Bookbinder keeper, and feels like a 1-year Tyreek seems prudent.
And if you had to guess, Gabe, what do you think the odds are that he keeps Jordan Bell?
35%.
What do you think, Les?
I'm going higher. I'm going to say 50. I mean, I actually pegged Bell as the challenging part about Bell is the years, right? Like he's certainly worth it for a year.
Dude,
right?
this is a test case for your theory that there's no consequences in UFBL.
Oh no, I'm not saying what I would do. You guys know what I would do. I would keep him I don't know that I'd keep the dude at all. I'd rather throw him back and try and draft him.
I'm quite literally, definitely, without a doubt, the biggest Jordan Bell fan in the league. There is absolutely a chance that he's the 4th big man on the Hawks in 2 years.
I don't understand the case for keeping him. I mean,
Well, so first of all, if you like, I don't know how closely you follow the Warriors stuff, but like Cousins cannot be so Cousins basically cannot be signed by the Warriors next year. It's basically impossible for that to happen. They're already outside of the luxury tax zone, which means that they cannot when Cousins becomes a free agent next year, that they can't pay him more than 20% more than they're paying him this year, which means they can only give him $6 million or something. So if Cousins is paying for a new contract, he's not coming back. And so that means that there's going to be a vacancy there, beyond this year, right? Not to mention that Cousins has a broke Achilles. So, I mean, Bell's going to have value this year. He may have really value the years
after. But Bookbinder
Looney better than he likes Bell, though.
Yeah, and Bookbinder and Cousins is going to play this year. And Bookbinder is Bookbinder just sold a slot for $11. So Bell's 11 to keep plus the 11 for the slot. It's like a $22 investment for this year with the opportunity cost. And Bell is not going to go for more than $22. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a perfect opportunity for him to just throw him back. If he wants to bid on him, bid on him.
Okay, so who's the third keeper to you?
I don't know. Any of these guys could be, or he sells the slots. I think. Yeah, I don't think
48. No.
What's the point?
Yeah,
he's not going to go for much more.
I mean, the one that we didn't mention. Then I think this guy. Yeah, there's one more that we didn't mention. Yeah. There's a lot of Lamb hype, but I don't. He's in the same category, right? All those guys, when you factor in the price of the slot, if you can still get $11 for a slot, it's hard to justify any.
I'm not seeing. I mean, I'm interested in the slot market in general. Maybe I'm not looking closely enough, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of obvious keepers without a slot to go to them.
There's a lot of Jeremy. There's a lot of Jeremy Lamb.
There's a lot of Jeremy Lambs out there, but someone's gonna have to decide that they want to commit to a Jeremy Lamb because if I knowing Bookbinder, I could more easily see him selling another slot.
I agree, and that's how I feel. That's how I feel about Jordan. That's how I feel about the Jordan Bell.
There's a couple guys that are not penciled in on your list yet, though.
Okay, I'm interested in your intel.
Can I be invited? To the after party? Can I be invited to the? Can I be invited to the after party of this podcast? All right. So anyway, so that's Bookbinder. I think he's. I'm. Gabe, this is an opportunity for you to share your theory about why you think he's going to have a monster draft.
I just feel like Bookbinder sometimes he's had a big stack before, and sometimes he can get in his own way, or for a variety one reason or another, or maybe just because it's different. It's not a criticism of it all. I'm just interested in how he's going to be better concentrating. He's going to be completely sober, presumably. Like we're getting an interesting control of what it looks like for a veteran UFBL manager to be drafting outside of the locus of FCR.
And I actually think when you know that you're gonna not be present and you're gonna be doing this over the phone, that you forces you to be more planful.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So I'm with you. Actually, what I'm gonna do preemptively is I'm bumping myself down to 6th place and putting Bookbinder as 5th. I'm reserving 4th for a guy who always finishes it in 4th.
How can we still get in Bookbinder's head somehow from afar?
I mean, just start talking about Jordan Bell and Jeremy Lamb and shit.
What's the plan for his participation in Glassby's?
We have another kind of back channel that you're not invited to, Horn, about the technology set up for them, and Jones is kind of spearheading that. I think that honestly, I've been through enough of these remote things that I'm adamant that we need to have a chat window open of some kind, or even text message. There has to be some text-based system, because otherwise we're gonna waste a quarter of the draft.
Books you out?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So in the optimal scenario, a player is nominated that he's not interested in. So
and then he just immediately says out, and we don't have to circle back to him. Right. There's one person kind of manning that responsibility. It's out. Right. And so and versus it kind of works itself out. Text is actually a pretty I'm just saying any text-based methodology is a pretty good way to handle it, because then you have something in writing.
I can't wait for hopefully more than one moment where someone thinks someone's standing up with the sticker in his hand, and I'm saying going twice, and then Books or Glassby comes in on the phone and is 61.
Yeah. Well, it does. The real downside for Books is it means you can't fuck around with people and be I'm out. Never mind 68. Right? You can't do that when it's in writing.
He's going to also be calling his toppers from the speakerphone or whatever.
I hope he plans something ridiculous. I do want him to make a video of him wearing the jersey of his topper, right?
That would be awesome.
He needs to do something.
That would be awesome. We should all do that, frankly.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Books. So the next tier is the Weird 7. First up is Glassby, Cassidy Redhawks. Who has him?
That's me. Okay, Glassby is, as always, a bit of a mystery box to me. He has 5 slots. I think I know who 4 of them are. Who are Andre Drummond, Bradley Beal, Larry Nance, and I think Will Barton.
How confident? How good do we all feel about the Larry Nance? I know that he topped him last year and he has a fondness for him, but how good would you feel for Larry Nance at $12?
If I kept Larry Nance for 3 years, he would be terrible. If Glassby keeps him for 3 years, he's really amazing.
Great answer. Exactly right. Okay, continue.
The 5th one?
Oh, you think Will Barton? I don't think Will Barton. I think Kyle Anderson is the 4th.
Oh, I missed Kyle.
Yeah, Anderson's a definite. Okay. Actually, I think it's between Barton and Jackson for the last.
So right, okay, yes. I'd forgotten about Slow-Mo. So Slow-Mo's definitely number 4, and then 5 is between Barton and Jackson.
I've basically come to Glassby and said, whichever one of these guys you're not keeping, let's talk. And I haven't gotten a straight answer yet.
I can't believe Kyle Anderson is a fucking keeper in USBL. It's
how many years
great.
are you keeping Kyle Anderson if you own him more?
I'd keep him for 3 years. So that's Glassby. It'll be the usual, and we all just predict fourth place finish then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Checkmate. All right. Next up is
which is a low finish for Glassby.
Yeah.
Next up is T-Mac. Who's got T-Mac?
I think it's Gabe.
No.
I might have T-Mac.
Yeah, you do.
I have T-Mac. I have T-Mac. So T-Mac. All right. It's the same. I don't really have a lot of visibility into what he's trying to do. I was the one a year ago who, as you know, Gabe, Aaron Gordon is at the top of all of my lists, circled and starred, A1 priority for the walks in the summer of 2017. I think persuaded T-Mac eventually to keep him for 3 years once I realized that I couldn't have him because I just thought he was like slam dunk, no brainer, like the next great UFBL keeper. So far, he's not that. I actually still think he could become that. I mean, I think everyone's kind of checked out on Aaron Gordon. I think that if Aaron Gordon wasn't a keeper in UFBL this year, that he'd be like sneakily on a lot of people's lists.
I think if he had gone to a different team, I think if he had gone to the Pacers, which was, I think, where he was going to go if he
right, he was going to get a fresh start.
He would be on everyone's list. Everyone would be so pumped on him.
Yeah. But I think he's still Aaron Gordon. He's still freakishly athletic. The front court is a clusterfuck. There's no point guard. It's all a problem still. But so I think T-Mac needs that to break. And then Capella, who, as I understand it, he's keen to keep because I approached him about it, and he said that at least at the moment he wasn't prepared to sell. Capella's a good keeper. I think he might have been a little on the fence. I'm not afraid of Capella at 50. Position and category scarcity being what they are, I think it's solid.
That's not even close to
that's happening.
That's just a 2 or 3 year decision to me.
Yeah, I agree. I would keep him long term. And then that's it. I mean, and then he'll do the rest of it. He'll do his T-Mac thing. I think T-Mac, like you were saying with Jones, Lusky, like this has been his Achilles heel, frankly, the last couple of years where he's had good teams. He doesn't have those guys to flip, and for better or for worse, like that's UFBL right now. And I know T-Mac is a competitive guy and prides himself on.
He's too late.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Capella more than Gordon. I think Gordon at 57 with 1 year left isn't gonna unless he showed.
So one thing we haven't mentioned about T-Mac's team that I think I don't know if T-Mac listens to the pod. I hope he does. But the most interesting, so I made this list of I'd hoped that we were going to do another podcast before the thing, but it's like the list of the most interesting decisions leading into the draft. One of the most interesting is he may have the first ever LSL pick that when you evaluate it is not worth his LSL price.
In Zion?
No, he has Bagley.
Oh.
Bagley was drafted second. So his price is kind of high. Like, what does he go for at open auction? $24.
Oh, you're saying Bagley's going to be the first one where somebody has to decide whether to actually keep
execute.
Bagley's going to walk in and average 20 and 10, but I'm not sure that's true.
I mean, even if he does, you get so here's the deal. Even if you think Bagley at open auction goes for 28 and not 24, buying him at 28 and having a year to keep him, having the opportunity to give him 3 years versus 2,
or spend that 28 on someone you like more. Yeah.
Personally, I'm probably throwing him back, but I'm just that's interesting, right?
I mean, did you see that 4-center lineup?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's the other issue is the Kings are just like it's worse than the Magic.
Right, Willie Cauley-Stein could go between $2 and $30 in UAFL, and I would not be surprised.
Yeah, that's
Horns 31. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but Topper. That's a really interesting observation, Les. I'm glad you made it. And that's it. I bet you, thinking about it now and not having thought about how expensive he'll be on the rookie scale. T-Max is smart. He'll throw him back. I don't think that'll be a tough decision.
Really? I'm big. I think he's keeping him. I think he's
the only reason you would keep him is pride, basically, just to own the pick.
Or because he realized that he needs someone to flip, and that's his guy.
Yeah. But the LSL guys are, as you know, Lasky, you talked about this all last year. The LSL guys are a little damaged goods because they, even if they hit, you only have 2 years left to extend them. So I don't know. I guess that is interesting, but I think the play is to throw him back. But to go spend money on other guys. But now Zion is the wild card, and if he, I don't think T-Mac has never had in sort of recent memory an asset as desirable or as popular as sort of as much like the object of our collective fascination as Zion. So that will be a new kind of leverage that he has. So I don't recall how I've apportioned my first, second, third, fourth, fifth places. Maybe they might all be accounted for. I think T-Mac is going to be knocking on the door of that group, and if he can either flip Zion or and get a great package, or spend a little bit of extra cash in this auction that he wouldn't otherwise spend, chasing some upside rather than just getting Al Horford and shit. I think he'll be right there in that mix. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Weird 7. Who's next up in Weird 7?
You're up. It's height. You've been really excited about this.
I am.
I think we all agree this might be the most interesting roster.
Yeah, I think Haidt has like a really fascinating position.
So
a lot of ins on the outside of what have you.
Yeah, it's definitely that. So I feel like I've been talking a while. Can we come back to Haidt so I can take a break?
No, I want to do this.
I've done like the last 3 of these. All right. Okay.
Who made this agenda?
What's that?
Who made this agenda?
Well, I assigned the teams, but then you decided you wanted to do it in order of the tiers.
Wait, Haidt has. Wait, what is that? Whoa. His LSL guy is Vernon Carey Jr.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a 2020 or something. He's gonna be a freshman at Florida this year or something. He's
legit. Wow.
He's like maybe gonna be fat, but just like Zion, actually, there's like both of them have like maybe weight issues, but Vernon Carey's no joke.
Okay.
And then Amish, we didn't mention with Amish. Amish has James Wiseman, who's the number 1, who's like the next Anthony Davis in 2020.
So Haidt, I was trying to think of an analogy, and I was struggling to think of the analogy, but like Haidt has done. So I think there are 2 players on his team who we're going to talk about as keepers or potential keepers, who in some ways are, I think, I think fairly are stains on the recent like track record of Splicer's management. And those are Lonzo and Zach LaVine, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But despite that, despite that, he has emerged from, I think, a rocky couple of years and some shaky decisions with a really, really fun and interesting team. But before we get to the future, Lusk, you don't share my view on Lonzo. I think Lonzo is, if he wants to keep Lonzo, keep Lonzo. I think Lonzo still has potential. I think he might be, a fun player to have. I think he's. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to all gel with LeBron, but if he wants to keep Lonzo, that's fine. It's not a bad use of the slot. But my point about Lonzo is that Haidt single-handedly upset the competitive balance of the league last year and effectively drove Phil out of the league by acquiring Lonzo, and so he has a lot of I think pressure to do right by that decision, and so I don't know that Lonzo is necessarily the best use of that slot, but please respond.
No, I mean, we didn't really get into the details about it. I think I share your view with much of what you said. I think Lonzo. I still have more hope around Lonzo than you do, probably. I mean, Lonzo's an interesting fit from a fantasy perspective, just because the things he does well are very hard to find sometimes. He's just really strong at 3 and D, and he's one of those guys that I feel like Monster or those projection systems will never give him the credit he deserves. Even when he has his good.
Because the shooting and the turnovers.
Yeah, it's like Rondo used to be, right? Rondo is a guy that you had to configure your Monster a certain way to punt 2 categories, and then he was the 3rd best player in the league, right? And I think Lonzo has that type of upside, but you have to just find the right team makeup for him. I think he's going to be a darling for certain builds in the years ahead. I'm also not confident he's going to remain a Laker. I think that he, as much as any of their guys, is a likely candidate to get dealt.
But that won't happen until next year, I wouldn't think.
If you punt points, field goal, free throw, and turnover, Lonzo is the 19th ranked player on.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And that's as a rookie.
So Haidt's got Jared Allen who will be under contract for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think we lost you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're back. Sorry. So Jared Allen for 3.
Jared Allen's going to keep for 3. Jamal Murray's a nice player, a nice keeper. That's great. He's got Zach LaVine, who I think the scuttlebutt is that he's going to toss him back. Probably not pay much of a penalty, although people do like to stick it to the tossbacks. Gabe, what are you hearing about Zach LaVine?
I'm not allowed to divulge because I've asked that question directly of Haidt and would not like the same revealed about one of my players on the podcast.
Yeah, I have not had the direct discussion with Haidt. I mean, I think this is a pretty clear case, right? Levine at 32, it's kind of like about right for him. I think he goes right around there. Maybe you pay a slight penalty just because managers are dicks. But I think that's what he goes for. He's had a really, like, his first preseason game was like ridiculously good. I think tonight the Bulls got blown out, so I doubt that he had a good game. But I think he goes right around 32, and then he gets the slot back to use on one of these other guys.
So then the other guy, and he's got all these interesting options, right? So he's got, Jabari is a potential option.
I don't see that either.
DeJounte, who I think is probably not worth using the slot on, but is there. And then he's got Jalen, who he seems to really like. And so that might be where the slot goes. But then there's other guys too, like I don't know, maybe there's not other guys. Hazonia, right? Yeah, Hazonia.
Yeah. So I think he's got a real wait and see team as far as preseason goes.
That's such a dangerous game to play, though. It's like, Hazonia went off in the third quarter of a Knicks game against the,
I don't think it's that dangerous. I think Jalen is a guy in particular that you might want to just see what that new look Celtics team looks like. Jalen in the playoffs last year, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was almost like this the beta to Tatum's alpha. He was really good. He got a ton of steals, ton of threes. He was really good. So that Celtics team is just scary because there's a lot of mouths to feed. But I don't know that I disagree with him.
I think Jalen's. I don't think there's any discussion whatsoever about either Lonzo or Jalen, and that's not based on talking to height. That's just I think those are easy decisions for him.
So So when Height keeps those guys, it's a lot of guys. It's a lot of slots. He still has a lot of cash to play with. I think still close to 300, high 200s. I think he's gonna. But all of his guys, like Jamal Murray, is probably his best player, so he's gonna be targeting some blue chips, I would think. And I think that his success this year will be dependent on which of those guys, which of those top guys he gets. Whether they complement this crew. As you said, Lusk, I think it's a good point. Lonzo has value in certain categories, and so you have to complement him well.
I think he has a sneaky amount of flip. I don't know. I could make an argument for putting Height in the keep a rich cash poor group because he can flip Allen, he can flip Lonzo, he can flip Murray, he can flip Jalen. Those are all relatively desirable assets.
Yeah, they may be desirable assets, but I don't think they are yet. I think those guys need to.
Sure, they're not Simmons, but I think just having that sheer number of them, and a couple of them are going to hit, and
right.
I don't know,
that's right.
That they have value to me.
I think that's right. I think with one or two of those hit, he'll have some chips to play with. So predicting finish, I don't know. I think. It's hard to do without knowing how he's going to spend the cash and which sort of top guy he's going to get. I think we've probably already assigned all these spots, but
at this point, the assignment.
We're just never going to give anyone ninth place. It's just not going to happen.
I think we've been a little too generous with our predictions. He's got a good team.
We're all fucked now because these guys are going to be like, oh no, I'm going to give their I'm going to bust their prediction.
What's up next?
I know. I just want to say I'm high on Height. I don't think that ninth place was not meant to be about Height. I think Height could finish top 3.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Peskin group.
Yeah, Peskin tier. I've got Pesk's team. So Peskin, does he have the best off seasons of anybody? Remember last year, remember he and I made this deal where I gave him my entire roster for Fultz. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He just has the best. I just love his, and remember that one year that he made all these strange they were value purchases Valanciunas, and then he steamrolled us in the draft, right? He the entire year, he won that.
TYP is a sleeping giant.
He's I just think that Peskin is so planful and stuff. This year, I'm a little curious because here's the thing.
Done the math. Has anyone done the math? I haven't.
Yes, I have. Okay, so check this out. Okay, so he now has 6 slots, right? So it's not even I initially thought when he made these purchases, it's just trying to keep us on our toes, right? But he bought the slot, right? So he's got 6 slots, and he has So he bought Kevin Love. So I think we're to assume he's a keeper.
Start with this firm commitment. Start with the firm commitments.
Okay, so the firm commitments are Steven Adams with one more year left at 32. Robert Covington, one more year left at 33. Marquise Chris, I think you have to keep him with 2 more years left at 28. Yeah, no, I mean, like, the thing is, like, you're gonna get popped for that. Like, you don't want to get popped 2 years in a row. At the very least, if he like keeps him this year, he'll trade him to some sucker like Horn, right? Mid-year, Horn will be like, "Oh yeah, I'll take Marquise Chris back. I don't give a shit." Right?
I mean, like, Lusky, the words Miles Turner only comes with Marquise Chris attached have already been communicated from management to Walks management.
Right. Miles Turner, 1 more year, 53 attached. Sorry, 53 bucks. So then after those 4 firm commitments, he's got 2 more left. And he went out and bought Kevin Love, who had 96 to keep. And he bought Chris Paul, who's 126 to keep, right? So I think we are to assume those are the 2 other keepers. I told him, I think the other squinter on his team, he thinks he has a lot of squinters, but I think there's one obvious squinter, which is Buddy Hield at 21. I don't love it, but I think that you can make an argument.
Would you keep him for 1 year, or would you keep him for multiple years?
No, I mean, I don't keep him, period. I'm just saying if you had to squint hard enough, he's the guy. So
yeah, no, I think he's so Peskin asked me today, basically out of the blue, like we weren't really talking about his team or my team or anything. He's like, just question for you. Is Chris Paul worth 65 Marcus Smarts?
Okay. And then
wait, there's one other squinter.
Is it Montrezl?
Yeah, Morel, dude.
Not a 10. Ridiculous.
I can't believe Swanigan went for 15.
Yeah. So he also, I do want to point out, he has another $5 commitment on his LSL roster, who's not like a guy you're thrilled, but he's like, okay, it's $5 or whatever, and that's McCall Bridges.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So it's fine.
Oh, yeah, he'll exercise that. He'll exercise the option.
Yeah, he will for sure.
So how much cash is he dedicated?
So if you assume
also Lusky, we've allowed. Well, this is really Gabe's failure because he had the Jabberwocks, but the Jabberwocks are going to have also going to make LSL history by not. Well, we'll see what happens. But
with Draymond. I was going to call Duval, but then I realized I'd have to pay for $1 for him. So I'm going to let you handle it.
There's no Truvon Duval rule in the UAFL Constitution.
I will never live that down. I drafted Trevon Duval.
I know.
Okay, so Peskin, if he keeps Love and Paul and those other guys that it seem obvious, he will have guess game without doing the math.
$66.
Horn, you want to take a stab at this?
He told me like
you will have $25 left.
Oh wait, he only has 25 left.
$25.
My mouth. I'm making many more facial expressions. I'm talking
like
in the room.
We would be like, "That's an auction."
Wow,
that's an auction.
It's the Amish dream.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, for that reason, I think I see him weaseling out. But the thing is, at this point, he has to weasel out, like choose between Love and Paul, and then also like find a new home for that slot. There's just like a lot. He's got a lot of.
He's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of work to do.
He's got either a lot of or 0 balls in the air.
What was his? How much did he pay for Love and Paul?
He paid $2 to me for Love, and I think he paid like $6 for Paul.
Something like that.
That whatever. The Love thing he can weasel. That's not even weaseling out of. He just doesn't.
Yeah, it's actually less about paying a few bucks here and there for the players. It's that he went out and got the slots for them.
So he'll get better players to use for the slots, or he'll keep fucking Montrez or whatever, or Buddy Hield for a year.
He offered me earlier this offseason. He offered me Crowder with a straight face, and I was like, Jay Crowder?
All right, so that's the Peskin. Oh, finish. What place is going to finish? Lusk.
I'm not doing that.
We're done with that. Yeah. All right. Next is Mitch. Who's got Mitch?
I do. I feel good about who he's going to keep. I'm very. I mean, I think the question with Mitch is, should he have pursued taking on the Keep Show? Like we never really we for having an expansion and a replacement, we never really talked much about our options here. Like I don't know how it would work, but an expansion draft would have been fun. Like we got to keep 3 players or like protect 3 players or something. Like it just would have been a fun. I'm sure it would have caused chaos. It would have made it not worth it. But like as a mental exercise. It might have been fun.
I mean, Yeah.
Or protect as many players as you have slots for or something.
Sure.
So he would have been buying a franchise that has D'Angelo Russell for 38 and Marc Gasol for 58. Why would you do that?
And Kevin Knox.
And Kevin Knox.
And Josh Richardson.
What is Josh Richardson to keep? 43? Whatever. That's whatever.
Anyway, that's just me looking for something to say other than we're excited to have Mitch in the league.
Well, I'll say I think he did the right thing by I think he paid a lot for LeBron, but that issue aside, and that's quibbling over dollars. I think he did the right thing by just lining up some good players at not crazy prices. Like it's literally his first rodeo, and I guess not quite literally, but it's figuratively his first rodeo, and it's good to just have guys locked in. It alleviates some of the challenges that come up during the auction. Who's up next? So that's the Peskin group, and what's the last? Is this the last group now?
Let's see. Muck. So I got this. This is we're gonna start here with Leonine Faces, right? So sure. Emmer's interesting mainly because of the slot. He's got a full.
How much cash does he have?
$400 on the dot.
400 even.
Yeah, he just was like, okay, I'm not making any deals. I'm just gonna deal shit like hurt players to Lesky and win the league. He's got Doncic. He's got $400, and he's got a slot. And the only player on his team that I really think you can make a case to keep is James Harden.
Totally agree.
And I don't know that that's Emmer's style, unless here's what I've been thinking, right? So like just thinking about Emmer's kind of like MO, like would it shock anyone if he were to like to keep Harden and then turn around to Weeg and say like, I'll give you Harden for the rights to Jaren Jackson plus $50, right? Like that's like he plots this thing out, right? And when we look at like his tactics, like I think that is the kind of move I could see him making.
If that's so, I like the sound of that. I hadn't really thought about. I had the same thought that I'm not positive that keeping Harden is the Emmer move, but that it's the only keepable player on that roster, and that I think it would be prudent for someone to keep Harden for 1 year at 181.
I think Harden is one of those guys. He's getting
someone's going to get cheap in the next couple of days or at the ranch. Do you think that the league would be upset if he made it like you just proposed?
I mean, at this point, it's par for the course. I mean, until we substantively change the rules such that those types of deals don't make sense for a manager, that's just the way that UAFB operates. So, I mean, unless there's another Phil who just is on the edge, like, it's just the way it goes.
I think there's one other player on his roster that he's considering.
Valanciunas.
Yeah, Valanciunas. I think he likes Valanciunas. Valanciunas at 28 is nice.
Yeah, that's value.
Yeah, I was overlooking.
That's value.
Yeah.
I just that really doesn't seem like Emmer move.
I would rather fuck around with Harden as you proposed than keep Valanciunas, but I can see it.
Why Lusky? Why if you're Emmer, so I think that's certainly something he could do. But why not just pay cash to Weeg now for Jackson or whatever, and keep Harden? Why do you need to sign?
The amount of cash that Emmer is going to for Jackson at this point would be quite high, right? Like Weeg's hope has to be that Jackson is. He needs Jackson ultimately as the keeper as Donovan Mitchell or something, right? So, or maybe not, but like as good of a keeper as one of these other premium keeps, and so he needs like a mega return right now. I don't know if he takes, I don't know if like if I offered Weeg $100 for Jaren Jackson right now, I don't think he takes it.
Dude, I think you're like fucking leading the Jaren Jackson like hype train right now.
No, I'm just.
Is it possible more of a commentary that, like, we're getting a little carried away about Jaren fucking Jackson?
This is just a commentary about our league, man. Like last year, $177 was paid for Dennis Jr., who's like not very good. Like I think Jaren Jackson has as much upside as Dennis Jr. did last year. Maybe I don't know, maybe a little bit less.
Anything else on Leonine Faces before we move on?
No.
I just think they're in an interesting position coming off a championship and with a normal
not being dead in the water.
Yeah,
That's true. He's actually probably in the best position to repeat as anyone we've had in a long time.
He technically could.
Next up is
we said you're going to do the next one, right? You're going to do Sorry for Partying?
Sorry for Partying?
Yeah. Or one of you guys is. I don't know who it is.
It's you.
I'm Sorry for Partying. So I also I guess I'm not sure why Beer would punt. He did a good job of getting off of his bad contracts and shit. He has 3 slots and also has some tasteful pieces in Harris and Cantor and Dinwiddie and.
Did you guys see what Cantor did tonight?
No, what did he do tonight?
Like he had 22 and 21 or something.
Yeah, that's what he does. Brogdon is actually the most interesting question.
But Beer's the third. I mean, sorry, Cantor's the third keeper on that team, right?
Third key. So, well, assuming that's what I was saying about Brogdon. I might be thinking about a prospect.
Yeah, well, Bogdan is the most interesting of the the most interesting that's outside of
Dinwiddie
those.
was really good last year.
Who?
Dinwiddie.
Yeah, but he's with Russell back. He's back to the bench, and Levert is now
it's a different situation.
Yeah.
So wait, you guys broke up a little bit. You think that it's Harris, Brogdon, and Cantor?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, the tier was just the guys who were in the race last year and came in a little depleted. But yeah, Beer's got Tobias. Tobias is a really nice keeper. It's if he wants, he's like, I think probably he's probably better off than Emmer, depending on how you look at it, because Harris is a better keeper in terms of value. But like the hardened scenario that you just described, Lusky, is obviously attractive and would be hard to resist.
Like, is he that much worse off than he was coming into last year?
No, but I just think Emmer is very practical. He's a realist. Like,
I'm talking about Beer.
Oh, sorry.
Like I didn't think that much Beer's team last year and he was
a squad that's like.
The crickets are there.
Horn, did we lose you?
No, can you hear me?
We got you back. We got you back.
Did you hear the crickets before you heard me?
Yeah. We're just hearing nothing but crickets.
It's literally crickets. It's like
Perfect.
It's like the auction when you call. I don't know who you're gonna call when you hear crickets on. Trayvon Duval.
Peskin should take a little sample of that and play it on a loop when the Trayvon Duval.
This is we do need a
soundboard. We need a
soundtrack. Like we need someone to DJ this, right? I want us to open. Yeah, we need to like up our game. You know, like there should be.
It's been a couple of years since our last great innovation.
A soundboard would be amazing.
But I want people. Yeah, I just feel like certain players should have theme songs.
Yes.
Right, you can play in lieu of saying their name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So as soon as they're called, it's like, oh, we know who this is.
Dude, this has so much potential. Who can be in charge of putting this together in the next week?
I'm sorry to put more on him, but it feels like a Peskin.
Yeah.
It does feel like a Peskin job.
He's done so much, but it feels like a Peskin job.
Yeah.
It's such a good audio-visual challenge. God, and we could use clips of us from the podcast or like clips of us in the auction that you play the following year of like Lusky, Luskyisms. It'd be good. All right.
Okay, last game,
but not least, is the Chupacabras.
Yeah, I mean, so we got $378 in no slots. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Gabe, I think your team is gonna be like the Miles Bridges All Stars. You have no LSL picks. There's like you're literally starting like it's like you just showed up and the cupboard is just like entire. It's like when you show up at the cabin late at night after a long road trip, and you open up the cabinet, it's like completely bare, and you're so hungry, right? Like that's where you're at. So I do like you're gonna be you. This is the kind of where you like to live, though, right? Like. I mean, Bookbinder and I have been talking about the bidding of some of the rookies, and he keeps being like, "Gabe's going to bid this one to like, and it's like any is, but you should just pencil him into Gabe's team, or at least auction police that shit, please." So that's kind of what I see for your future. It's going to be like the Marcus Smart All Stars, right? That's what I see in your future.
Gabe, were you aware before I told you like a day or two ago that Emmercare expansion passed?
No, I wasn't. I was like a little bit appalled at the penalty I'm definitely going to be paying this year. I would just like everyone to know that they're hard to come by. There's in hands to find them in. And also that the Lou Willis. Crickets.
Yeah, 378, and we didn't even talk about Nurkic.
Sorry, but my shit keeps cutting out.
So yeah, I didn't even mention the 378. That doesn't even include the whatever the Nurkic penalty is going to be. Do you want to put an over under on the Nurkic penalty?
That's not nice to do to Gabe on the podcast. He's right. He's
you
right. You're sharing a set of head.
No, I have my own.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Where are we?
Phil's team as well. Where would Phil's what tier would Phil's team have been in?
You asking me?
I think it's in like the beer T-Mac tier.
Well, beer's lower. Beer's currently in the last tier.
I wouldn't like Phil.
I just mean in terms of potential finish. That's what
yeah.
Phil would have.
I think he'd be in the weird.
Phil would have like 300 after he paid Russell and Gasol. He would have like less than $300. He'd have like 280 or something.
All right,
we did it.
Looking forward to seeing everyone in a couple days. Hopefully this will be out for everyone's flights.
Yeah, I already gave Pest the heads up. I think he's on it, so hopefully we'll.
Awesome. I don't know if you guys
can hear me to us.
Can you? Well, good night.
Good night.